this video, we're going to be taking a look at the Naboo Royal Guard for the Vintage Collection. He was VC83 as part of the Phantom Menace wave back in 2012. So I've had this guy ever since 2012, but he's not the original one I got. So I got the original one at my local grocery store, and I got it home, opened it up, and his right leg, I think, was significantly larger than his left, and this guy could not stand at all. He's totally at lean, and this was worse than usual. This guy has a little bit of that too, where his right leg, I think, is a little bit taller than his left, or vice versa, one of the two. It's kind of hard to tell, but it's definitely much less compared to the last one I got. So I ended up taking him back to the store and then exchanging him for this one here. And then sure enough, the card was in relatively good condition. So I go back a week later to the store, and sure enough, they just taped them up and put them back on the shelf. And someone eventually did buy it, so somebody out there has my original action figure. But that's an interesting story. But it was really bad. Normally I don't do stuff like that, but it was like, man, this is a really defective action figure. And I knew the store had a few others on hand, so I was like, you know what, I'm just going to take this guy back. The card's still in decent condition. I know the average person probably look at it and be like, what's the big deal? But you know, when you're an action figure collector, things like that do kind of bother you. And it's like, you know, I don't want to have this Naboo Royal Guard that's permanently at lean. So just one of those adventures in action figure collecting that's of interest. So I distinctively recall this guy had a character debut sticker on his card. And from my understanding, well, I know this as well, that it's not totally accurate. The Phantom Menace line actually had one Naboo Royal Guard that looked kind of similar to this. I'm not exactly sure why they slapped the character debut sticker on it. I wish they still kind of did that stuff, but these days in TVC, most of the action figures we get are character debuts, aren't they? Like, maybe it's the helmet, maybe it's the portrait, maybe it's some specific scene or something why they made him a character debut, but that's not technically accurate. And of course, between 1999 and 2012 or so, we got various Naboo Royal Guards over the years. Some of them in the yellow scheme, and some of them that kind of look similar to this. And of course, we got like Captain Typho a couple years previously, and of course, there's Panaka as well. Lots of different versions out there. But since then, this has been the last Naboo Royal Guard we've gotten from Hasbro. Even the Black Series doesn't have one at this point. So the head sculpt looks pretty good. You can't take his helmet off here. It is a nice tight fit. You just basically lift the strap over his head there. So here's his helmet. Looks pretty good. Has that shade on the back. Nice design on his helmet. That blue and yellow combination. Then for his head, it's pretty basic. I'm sure it's based upon one of the actors who plays as a Naboo Royal Guard in the film. I'm not exactly sure which one or which scene he shows up in. I know Mark Hamill's son actually played as one. I know this is probably not him. It's a nice head sculpt, nice paint. Even if Hasbro did a repack of this guy, I really would not want the photoreal with this because they did such an excellent job with the portrait. I think the photoreal will kind of ruin it. And it fits securely on his head. Looks really nice. As for the rest of his outfit, it's very faithful to the Naboo Royal Guard. Has that nice pleated look to him. And it has the appropriate ruffles on his sleeves there. Nice gloves too. Some nice pattern on it. Has his comma here. It does have a holster for his blaster. Then his red pants. Then his boots. terms of his articulation, he does have a ball joint the head, then hinged shoulders, elbows, and swivel forearms, swivel waist, and swivel hips, and hinged knees, and hinged ankles. I think his articulation is as perfect as it needs to be. I know some people are adamant about having super articulated all around, but you know, Naboo Royal Guard, yes, you're going to give him in some dynamic poses, but I think you can pretty much accommodate all those with the articulation he has. I don't think hinged hips or swivel thigh or anything like that would really be a major benefit for him. In terms of his weapons and accessories, of course, his helmet, and then his Naboo blaster here, which really not a whole lot to say about it. It does fit securely in his hand, and it does have a little bit of a different grip there where it's kind of form-fitting to his hand. It's a nice design. And it does fit securely in his holster. I'm trying to think if it goes this way or the other way. I mean, you can kind of go that way if you want to do a cross draw. Let's see here. Yeah, I think that's the way it's more meant to go. Looks kind of awkward. It's not the best holster in the world, and of course it's sticking out of the bottom there. But at least it stays in place. And you can get him in some nice poses. Like he's going into action. Things like that. Oh, he has that nice belt buckle there too. Kind of a goldish color a little bit. That pleated look on the back. And here he is with who he's assigned to protect, Queen Amidala. And I did review her on the channel almost 2 years ago at this point. And she was released basically during the same wave as this guy. And they look really good together. Here he is with Captain Panaka, who I did review very recently. And just throw one more in there. Throw in Captain Typho as well. They all look really good together. This is pretty much all the Naboo Royal Guards I have in my collection. I would really like to get a whole lot more, especially there's a very nice one in the Saga collection 2006 in the yellow uniform. I think those are more pilots actually, but it's just labeled as a Naboo Royal Guard, I think, or Naboo Soldier or something like that. There was one in the 30th anniversary collection, which is basically a repaint of that, I think, but red. And then also in the Phantom Menace line, there's a few other generic Royal Guards as well. I'd like to track them all down at some point. And I would like to get the Naboo Speeder. I think there was one in the Phantom Menace line back in the day. That'd be a very nice one to have. Yeah, big fans of these guys. So would I recommend the Naboo Royal Guard for your collection? I would. It's a very nice action figure. As much as people like to rag on the Phantom Menace wave back in 2012 with all the peg warming, and yes, there were a lot of peg warmers that carried on into like 2014 and 15 even. This one was definitely one of the highlights of that wave, and for the most part, he sold through pretty good. Occasionally, I would find one in retail that would linger around for a while, but for the most part, he didn't stay around for long. Between him, Darth Maul, Dalte Dauphine, and Quinlan Voss, I think those were some of the highest sellers for that particular wave. It was usually Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon, even the Battle Droid to an extent, and young Anakin Skywalker. I think that mostly peg warmed the most. At least that's how it was in my area. I know it's usually different for everyone else. But yeah, solid action figure. It's been in my collection since 2012. happy to have them along. And if you don't have one in your collection, I would suggest tracking one down. I don't think the prices for him are too bad. Definitely you're going to pay a little bit more than retail, but I don't think he's outrageously expensive or you're paying $100 for a brand new one. Last I checked, I think you can find one for like $25 or $30, which is not too bad. But anyways, that concludes this review. I hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned for plenty more reviews in the future. There'll always be more to come. If you haven't already, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. I always appreciate all your support. And check out some links in the description if you have not done so already. As always, thanks for watching.